Hey, welcome to another episode of Hard to Guard TV. I'm Edgar Burgos, and today I have a special friend. I like to call him a brother sometimes. I know I drive him crazy. He drives me crazy, but I love this guy to death, Thanasis Petrakis. What up, Thanasis?
What's up, my guy, Ed? The feeling is mutual, man. I love you like a brother for sure. We've known each other at this point for, I think, 18 years, man. So I've known you a long time at this point.
Yes, Thanasis now is founder of Fresh Focus Sports. But me and Thanasis go way back. We started when he was we met when he was an intern at the NBA, and
it's my mentor right there.
I want to talk about, first, how did you get a job at the NBA as an intern?
It's actually a funny story, man. My sister, she was working as like a secretary, like an executive assistant for a company that was like a travel agency. So it really had nothing to do with sports. And I needed to take an internship for my college major. I was a dual major. I was going to go either education or communication. So for the communications major, I needed an internship. So I was like, let me get one in sports. That just makes sense. That's what I loved to do. And I had a background in video production, slightly from editing in high school, like highlight tapes and stuff like that of myself, of friends. I'd had a background in it, but I wouldn't say I was into it yet. And I reached out to my sister because she was the only person that I knew kind of in the working world. And her boss had a connection. I was trying to actually get an internship at Madison Square Garden because I thought they had a connection there, and he couldn't. And he was like, I could get you an interview at the NBA. I was like, oh, well, that's even better, So I got an interview, did well, latched on. And then once I saw that was like a possibility, to be honest, I did not know that job existed. Like it's kind of a little naive, even being in college, going to whatever. But you know how it is in like 2003, the information, you're not seeing other jobs. Like unless someone in your life has a job, you didn't really know about it as much. There was no Instagram or social media. So once I saw that that was a job that you could work in sports and be a producer and editor, I was like all in. I stayed in touch with them. I came back to NBA TV and worked as an editor during my senior year because I never let them. I would just email everybody. So all those guys, I would just email nonstop, like annoying, And they were like, all right, you could come back and edit during winter break because I didn't want to lose that connection because I'm telling you, I didn't really realize that was like a job. So once I saw that was a job, I was like, I'm not leaving that. And I interned with you the whole time. And like I said, you were my mentor. That's not like just blowing gas. That was for real. It was like I didn't have much experience. But basically you were heading up that show for NBA TV that was going to Rucker every week on NBA TV. And I would just be your PA. And I didn't have many assignments. I know you would just be like, hold this tape. And I was just kind of chilling at Rucker. So that was an amazing experience. But really, that's how I got involved. And then once I saw that, it was just like, all right, that's that. I knew exactly. I literally stopped my major of being an education major and just went full steam ahead into that. Knew that's what I wanted to do. And I never looked back. I went to the NBA. I started as a logger there after I got out of college. A logger is basically just looking at games and, you're setting ins and out points for editors so that they know that, LeBron James has this nasty dunk in the third quarter and you write a description. So it gets archived. People use it in the moment and all that stuff. It's kind of like an entry-level position. And I stayed there for almost 14 years. And
I do have a question. So when you became a logger, how did you get into our department at NBA TV? How did that come about?
Because every single logger, nobody wanted to go to NBA TV. Everybody wanted to go to NBA E, which was the smarter route. But I interned with you guys. I was like, dude, I'm going to NBA TV. Those are my guys over there.
Well, we worked the night shift. And
I worked the night shift for the next 6 years. So it might not have been the smartest move because everyone else was working 9 to 5. But I'll tell you what it did do. You got thrown into the fire over there. There was no training wheels. It was like, dude, you're editing the Houston, Golden State game. I need a minute 30, whatever. And you'd be like, dude, I don't know how to edit. I just started here. You're like, well, I need a minute 30, And like, that's really how we got in. So like you had to just like perform right away. There was no you weren't at an entry-level job anymore on NBA TV. This is like when NBA TV was, for everyone to know, in Secaucus, not where it is now down in Turner. That's where me and Ed worked together for like probably a decade.
Yeah. And then during that time, you know, you and I, we became close. And during those record days, can you just talk to how me and you just sat down when I was doing summer ball, and we just came to a conclusion that we should do a Rucker Park documentary on the Jay-Z Fat Joe season?
Yeah, honestly, the way I remember it is we were driving to my house in Jersey, and you were explaining it to me, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It was like 5-year anniversary coming up. And I remember you being like explaining it, and then you were like, and I think the title's going to be called The Blackout. And I was like, yo, I think I was like blown away by that. I was like, yo, I'm so in. I was like, that's fire. But there was a lot of hurdles, though. It was like you had a great idea, but we had a lot of hurdles because footage, we didn't own any of the footage, so we had to start tracking stuff down. So like the idea, though, that's how I remembered. It was definitely your idea, and then we had to sell it to everybody else to get all parties on board. But The Blackout to this day is probably still the best story I've ever told. I look at it as a slightly unfortunate that I was so early in my production skills to have such a dope project in front of me. Like with
also the fact that we were before social media, because
it was 2008, so YouTube was just around, but it wasn't popping like that.
And Instagram was 2012. 11.
Yeah, there was no Instagram. There was definitely no Instagram, and maybe Twitter, but Twitter was no video or anything like that. It was strictly just like tweets. But yeah, that project was so dope. Recently, just on our channel, you know, shout out Fresh Focus Sports. Humble brag right there, but we just hit, you know, that video has gone viral many times over. Now on our channel, it has over 1 million hits. On your channel, it has close to 1 million hits. When it first got released on World Star Hip Hop in 2009, it got like 2-3 million hits. So millions and millions of people have seen that doc. And it still holds up. I mean, we've talked about obviously doing stuff similar to it, revamped projects, but it's still an amazing story. It's like, if you're not from New York, to realize that A-listers, especially now, these people are still A-listers to this day in pop culture. We're showing up at 155th Street on like a Wednesday night, and it was, you know, better than being on a Broadway, down in Broadway. There was more excitement there. Like, that was one of the livest summers. It was surreal. For me, it was surreal. Like, I'm a white dude from the suburbs, so that was surreal for me.
So, you know, after you do that doc, one thing I started to notice is you became obsessed more with, you know, creating content. And obviously you working at the league and the league moving, when obviously NBA TV, we went, you know, we separated ways. They moved to Atlanta. You continue to stay on at NBA in Jersey, still building content. When did you know that, you know what, I'm going to start doing my own thing?
Once we did the Blackout, I mean, you know, I could have done it a lot smarter in building my side brand, but I've always kind of just been very conservative in how I've approached it. But for really what it's been is just an outlet to do passion projects. And it's really like you're doing passion projects, but it's also like a training ground. And that's always what it was like since the Blackout. Like, literally, if you watch the Blackout right now, that Fat Joe interview is the first thing ever shot with a camera. I think me and Booch bought it together. Rob Carbooch. So shout out Rob Carbooch, because we did that whole thing together back in the day. He taught me a ton about cameras. But we bought a camera, I think together, it was a Canon XH-A1. And we didn't even know. We just turned it on. You set up the thing. You were like, Fat Joe's going to be here. He was at Mousie's Park at 145th Street. We rolled right up to Fat Joe. And then I didn't appreciate how amazing it was. But now that I've been in the business for 15, 16, 17 years, how hard it is to schedule an interview, especially with someone of his caliber, for 45 minutes to sit down with us is just crazy. He sat down with us in a park at 145th Street as like the sun was going down, and we barely were learning how to use the camera, and we just like did like an interview. Like we're zooming in on the interview, like crazy stuff I would never do now. Like, you know, like he's saying something, we're like zooming in, just like we didn't even know what we were doing, dude. It was so dope. I remember, it's funny, like it was like a blue DV tape. Like there was no digital, like it was all on tapes. And I remember I came home to my roommates. I was like, yo, I could sell this to like a hip hop station or something for like 10 G's right now, because Joe was talking crazy. It was at the time, when you look back and you know that nothing happened, it's not as crazy, but like in the moment, it was crazy. Joe was talking like crazy on that interview. So it was like, yo, we got gold. We got him saying Jay's got a silver spoon in his mouth. Like those funny things, bro. Like, you know, they're still classic lines. So yeah, that was awesome. And that's really what Fresh Focus Sports has always been, is like, you do a project, you're doing a passion project, so you're usually helping someone that you like, right? Maybe Blackout wasn't that, but a lot of docs that I've done is like that, like, you know, a boxer that I know or something like that. So you're giving them promotion, but also you're working on your skills for when you get into the field and someone's like hiring you like a client, you've already put yourself in that position. And that's huge for anyone that's listening that's like going to be into production, because there's no substitute for experience and being in a situation, especially if you're going to shoot documentary stuff. There's no substitute for it, because you just gotta put yourself in situations that, so you could always react. I don't know. It's just, you know, you're never going to know until you're in that moment. And now that I've been shooting, I'm still learning every time I do a shoot.
So, you know, so now you know, you're getting your skills up. When did you decide, you know, one of the things that you did is you took a leap of faith, and you decided to, you know, not become an employee at the NBA. You decided to leave and pretty much become a full freelancer and with your own company.
Yeah, it wasn't that big of a. When you say it like that, it is, but it really wasn't that big of a move. It was just like, I had an opportunity in my personal life to move on for the first time in a while. And I had built up clients along the way when I was at the NBA. So when I left, it wasn't just like I was leaving, like, you know, this full-time job. Like when I went out West, I still had the UFC as a client, who's why I'm sitting in this room right now. I'm here for a UFC fight this week, filming with them. So I had them as a client. I had Hawk Films as a client. I had the Lakers they did a documentary show called Backstage Lakers. So it was just the fact that I over like a 14-year career at that point, I had built up enough contacts where I was like, all right, I could safely do this. So it was a risk, but it's not like a risk where some people are like, I'm going to LA with $10 in my pocket and I got to make it work. Like I had legit clients when I went out to LA, but it was still a risk nonetheless. But it's worked out and it's been good. And it's honestly only made me got better and better and better and better, because no matter who you're working with, if you're just working with one person, you get used to doing the way they do production. When you start to work with like a ton of other clients, you almost become this like cover band that plays in like a bar. Like they could play Sublime or they could do like a Snoop Dogg cover. You know what I mean? It's like they got crazy skills because that's what they're asked to do on a nightly basis, is just keep on playing things. And when you're getting hired by different clients, it's kind of similar. They all have different styles of how they film. So you have to tap into certain things and have to learn how to do things, which only adds to your repertoire, I guess.
And so why did you name your company Fresh Focus Sports?
True story. My buddy Matt Levine, a good friend from college, who's really good entrepreneur, had places in the city. I needed a production company when I first got out of college, just to like start doing like tax stuff too, like an LLC, like if I buy a computer. And he came up with the name. That's honestly the story. I was like, ooh, I like that. And then he had a really talented kid that created the logo, and that became my production company. And then you know how Fresh Focus Sports became is around 2016, we were all thinking about doing this. It just we never really made it work. And we just kept that name because we had built up the brand through like the Blackout, through like other projects. So it just made sense to just make the moniker Fresh Focus Sports, because we've already branded it for, at that point, for like 6 years doing projects. Whether, like, you know, one time in 2014 we did a project with Jay Hernandez, who's an NBA coach, where he had draft picks, and Kemba Walker was in it, and Tobias Harris, and that was branded under Fresh Focus Production. So it was like, just keep that name. We've already put brands under it. You might as well keep it. But it's been a long play, man. We're not doing, like, you know, we're not doing highlights and crossover videos and making kids look like fools to grab followers. Like, we're doing story-driven content. So it's a long play, but it's catered to what our skills are. And I say we because I do Fresh Focus Sports with Anthony Kazwanza, one of my best friends. And you know Anthony for, 15 years as well now. And he has, the same background as me in terms of the NBA, and he's worked with UFC. He's done boxing with Mayweather. Like, his credentials are legit too in documentary filmmaking. So we've kind of put our stuff together, and he's in New Jersey, I'm in LA. So it kind of works. We could like cover the country essentially on a very efficient way with content. And, we're starting to see consistent growth. It's not huge, but on our YouTube channel, like, our analytics are looking good.
Take that thought on the YouTube. We're gonna get to that.
What's that?
We're gonna get to YouTube in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the things that definitely, why, when you look at like Baller's Life, you look at what Slam is doing, pushing high school and highlight content, and you are specifically doing stories. Why stories? And what makes you think that down the road stories is going to be it, and that's what's going to help Fresh Focus get to the next level?
I don't think that story. Well, I'll put it like this: it's pretty simple about stories. That's what interests me. I'm a big believer in you got to follow what your passion is. Like, I'd be doing this if I didn't have a brand, Fresh Focus Sports. Like, if I met someone and they were like, dude, I'm a boxer, I got a fight coming up, I'd be like, oh, I want to come to your training camp. Like, that's just how I like to experience sports, is with my camera. I'm a sports junkie and I love filming. So I'm going to be doing that no matter what. And I like to tell stories because, I don't know, it just fulfills a lot in me. Like, the telling someone's story is kind of like a puzzle when you get it in the edit, which is very cool to me. And then, you're kind of doing a good thing if you're telling the right stories, and stories are powerful. So like, the overall thing is like, if you could build it to a platform where people are coming to and it's a destination, there's a lot of leverage in that. Brands want to be a part of that. Like, that's the long play, is get to the point where we're a destination. Like, you're the high school team, you're knocking down our door to do your show rather than us hitting you up on a DM. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting there. Like, within the local markets that we are in, when we do content with a team, it automatically makes a splash and it makes a difference, because no one's really doing that high end of content. I mean, not to gas up where we're coming from, but we're both guys that have produced and edited 30 for 30s, theatrical releases, like big time stuff that we've worked on in a lot of capacities, whether it's editing, producing, filming. So to be honest, it's really we're bringing a lot of value to these schools when we show up and produce a story on them. Like, you would normally have to pay someone a lot of money, or just like, hopefully that Sports Illustrated is interested or something like that. We're bringing pretty high-end storytelling content. So we're branding ourselves rather quickly once we do film with someone. But stories are what interests me, man. Like, that's what I watch. Like, I watch real life stories. I don't watch like sci-fi. Like, I'm not going to watch Star Wars. I'd watch a documentary again before I watch Star Wars. Like, I would watch Sebastian Telfair's Through the Fire before I watched a Star Wars. That's just what interests me, like real life stories. That's real.
So I was going to say, you've done.
And just real quick, like, just real quick, like, this is a perfect example. Like, it's no secret we've done a little content with Book, but and Book Richardson, and we plan on doing more with him. But that's a perfect example. Is like, we've grown a small platform, and now there's somebody where maybe a lot of people don't want to tell his story. We're in a position where we're capable of doing it if no one wants to give us money or someone wants to give us a lot of money, like we're capable of doing it because we're two guys that could film the whole thing. We could produce the whole thing and we could get his story told. And his story is an important story that maybe a lot of people aren't knocking down his door to tell, but I think it should be told. And that's just kind of a perfect example of like, you could do good things through having a platform.
Yeah,
and if you build it the right way, I think it only helps everybody.
I definitely wanted to jump on that, like right before you mentioned Book. Like, you know, you done a story on Book, and his story is incredible. And you know,
Anthony did that, by the way, to give credit.
Yeah,
that was all Anthony.
Him coming back from, you know, him fighting adversity and coming back. Can you just talk about like the relationships that you have gathered, and you know, guys, these young guys, and a guy like Coach Book, and they see that you're doing good and you're telling a good story. Can you talk about that relationship?
His specifically, or just kind of when you're
and some of the athletes that you get, some of the young.
You know, my relationship with him has grown quick because I filmed with him over the last couple of months. But really, it's been Anthony that's kind of been, and our friend Dara, that's connected us all together. Dara was really the catalyst of that, and we're pretty good friends with Dara, so he got us connected with Book, and we just took that leap of faith to start doing production with him to tell his story. And real quick, for people that don't know, he was one of the people that was caught up in the college basketball scandal, like 3 or 4 years ago. But it's really unfortunate situation of what happened to him, and it was unfair in a lot of ways. And yeah, we're looking to tell that story for him, and also just how good of a redeeming thing that's happening with him now. He's back at the Gauchos working with the top 8th graders in New York City. So like, you know, he lost that life that he had of being on top of the Division I basketball, but he's right back, kind of what gave him his opportunity in Gauchos. And if you don't know Gauchos, that's like the premier team in New York. So these kids are getting 30 years worth of high NCAA basketball knowledge to them at 13. So he's giving back. He's still positive and doing the most he can with the opportunities that he has. So we're going to help him tell that story. And that's just like a perfect example. Yeah, I mean, and you obviously grow relationships with them, and you want to make the story better because of that. So, yeah.
And some of the top high school kids that you worked out personally in LA. What's
that?
And some of the top high school kids that you personally worked out in LA that you filmed.
That I've like seen just work out.
That you filmed.
Well, I mean, we just did a documentary on Peyton Watson, on his team, Long Beach Poly, but Peyton Watson is ridiculous, crazy work ethic, great kid. But his whole skill package is there, man. He could do it all. I think his sky's the limit. So just going off of guys that we did series with, you know, Peyton is really, really impressive because just, you know, his skills are there because he was like a 6'4" guard when he was a sophomore. Now he's getting close to like 6'9", so he's just like really, really tough. And then last year we did 10 episodes with Dominic Harris, who's now at Gonzaga. So that kid's work ethic, and he's a beast on the court, a humble beast, very quiet but a killer. And when he gets his opportunity, he's gonna show people how good he is. It might not be till next year just because Gonzaga's stacked. But yeah, those are the two guys that come to mind just because I saw them the most too. Obviously, Dom's teammate was Evan Mobley, who's projected right now to be like a top 3 pick in the NBA draft. So he's super impressive, maybe even more impressive on the defensive end. He's going to be a big time NBA player.
So now, you know, you started pushing content on YouTube, and you've been able to, you know, surpass 10,000 subscribers. Can you tell people how hard that is to do?
It's hard, man, because like if you just think about it, people that even want to support you, they might not have a YouTube channel. So like they can't subscribe. So like even if they watch every one of your videos, they're not subscribed. So it's hard. And then also like, you know, we're doing this not on the side, but kind of like a little bit on the side. This isn't my main focus. Like right here, I'm going to be in Vegas for the next 8 days for the UFC. So fresh focus is not going to be a priority. The only reason I could really do this is because I'm in quarantine. I just tested for like the 150th time since March. So, life gets in the way and this becomes kind of not always a priority. So it's tough. It's tough to grow. If you go all in, it's probably going to be a little easier. But right now we're at like 12,000, 12,500, and we're like consistently growing. So it starts to encourage you when you see that, for sure. That's true when people say that, positive feedback or anything like that, that is whatever. But when you start to see those numbers and watch time go up, it really helps. So it's starting to, the Blackout honestly is a big help because it's a star powered doc. So it brings you to our channel, that doc has Fat Joe, LeBron, Beyonce, Jay-Z, like people are interested in Kobe, rest in peace. Tons of NBA players. So, it's pretty tough to get people on your channel, but when you do and you start to actually have success, it seems like YouTube starts to put you in front of other people's channel. And that's what we've started to see as we've become a little bit more legitimate, meaning like 10,000. It seems like YouTube's a little more willing to suggest our channel to other viewers.
Yeah. So now, usually, you get 10, 12,000 subscribers, which equivalates to, usually monthly 100,000 viewers, hopefully a month.
I would have to check, but I got to check, but it's like, it really all depends on what's getting circulated through that algorithm, meaning like sometimes the Blackout goes through and if it's hot, like, that could be a better month than other times. But I honestly don't know the number. So I would probably just be lying to you if I told you what it was. But last year we did, I think close to like 3 million views throughout all of our videos.
So now, what's the future for Fresh Focus looking like as far as building more content? And also, can you talk about like one thing that me and you that's always talked about, like you put out great work, is like getting it sponsor driven.
Yeah.
And we talk about the difficulties on that and how do you get seen and stuff like that, because me and you have been in a battle over years over that.
Yeah, what the more and more I see though, I think it's just really hard to get sponsors. And I don't know necessarily that should be the goal. If you could build up your own base, a perfect example of someone that I always view, and if you're a creator, you should check out his channel. It's called Anatomy of a Fighter, and his name's Will Harris. He does like MMA content. I know him he's following UFC guys, and he'll be like with the fighters, and I'll be there representing the league. So we've just like shot side by side pretty much all over the world because he's followed Habib. Give me 1 second. Someone's coming to my door. I got to drop off a card. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Sorry about that, Ed.
Yeah.
I shot a scene with a fighter this morning, and I had to just drop off the card to a PA.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what were we just saying?
No, we're talking about sponsorships.
Yeah. So his channel has over 500,000 subscribers, which is like monster. Like, the YouTube gives like 2 kind of awards, like one for 100,000 and one for 1 million. So he's on his way to 1 million. He has a monster channel. Like he lives off that channel. Like he produces awesome content and he turns it around in really great time. And he still doesn't have a sponsor on his channel. So in that, I've kind of lessened my expectations to realize how hard that actually is. But I think if you build up the fan base, you have a control and you have opportunities to do a lot of stuff yourself, like whether it's selling merch or products or anything like that. If you get the fan base, then you have a lot of moves that you could potentially make. It's just the first thing is getting that fan base, and they're not going to be fans unless you're actually doing content. So it's a tough game to play, but like, luckily I love it, or I wouldn't do it because it's a long haul game. But I understand that, and I'm okay with that.
And so I would say, what motivates you to keep pushing on?
It's just what I love to do. Like, how many times have I shot with you for free?
Yeah.
Think about it. 1,000?
Yeah.
And I've done that for a lot of other people too, just because this is what I love to do. Now, I don't do that. That's not what I do. I'm not saying here, just do everything for free. But like, I have a, humbly, I have a talent. I like to help people out that I know with that talent, and I just enjoy it. So it's just like, I'm one of those annoying people that likes his job.
Can you talk about what's the future for Fresh Focus? Where do you think it's going to go within the next 2 to 4
I'm going to keep pushing story-driven content, and I just hope the fan base keeps going. Even during this pandemic, I'm going to end up doing 10 episodes with a high school team. I did a 45-minute doc on the Long Beach Poly team, which has Peyton Watson, which is the #1 player in California. Anthony's pumping out content with high schools in Jersey all the time. He just released something today on Roselle Catholic, who's one of the powerhouses. So, like, there's eyes on high school basketball. And if we keep on doing that content where we're bringing skills from the NBA to that world, I don't see how it's not going to pay off. And then, our relationships with athletes keeps growing too. Like, it's not like we're trying to pick a horse and attach him to it, but the more people you film with, the bigger they become, like I follow a fighter now just because I'm friends with him. He's 6-0. What if he becomes 30-0 and he becomes, the next Manny Pacquiao? It's like, he might not, but I'm just saying, like, that's kind of the thing you're playing. Your content might pop off without ever knowing what's going to pop off. I would have never thought 12 years ago the Blackout would still be giving me revenue. And what's great is all the comments on there are like, this should be on Netflix. This is too good for YouTube. It should be on Hulu. I'm telling you, go check some of the comments, man. Make you feel good. But that doc is legit good because it didn't matter what we shot it on. We could have shot it on a camcorder. It's just a dope story.
No, it's a dope story, but we also laid it out.
And we did it good.
Imagine if we did it now, you know what I'm saying? Like,
bro, people would laugh at how we did those interviews. It would make a project manager's head explode. Edgar would call me and be like, yo, Kareem Reed's at 119th and 2nd Ave. You think you could get there? I'd be like, all right, let's go. Hey, Booch, you could film today? And we would go just roll up on people at all these parks throughout Harlem, the Bronx. It didn't matter where. You had a summer ball going, and you had you had one of the girls working for you ask LeBron after a post game. Yeah. We got a LeBron bite in there. Like, we were hustling for sound bites in there. Edgar would go to media days at New York and just like pop in the mic. Hey, Mello, talk about Rucker. And then we like use that bite. Like, like that was grimy how that doc got made.
Yeah, we definitely it was definitely grassroots filming.
Grassroots and just doing it. No one helping us, just learning how to do it ourselves.
Yeah, but I'm actually like, even now, like sometimes there's the part of me wish we could have did it the right way, but it's also I'm glad that we did it just because it just shows.
Man, if we would have got the Jay interview, forget it. That doc would have been.
Yeah, no fact. But like I said, like so the goal, is the Fresh Focus. Like as far as building a film, like do you see it happening in the next couple of years, or do you just
film in what, like a narrative or like a
narrative, or just more documentaries?
Definitely documentaries. I would have never said yes to the narrative question like 5 years ago, but I think it's a possibility. I think the way I'll slowly work my skills there is on documentaries that I do by doing recreations.
Mm-hmm.
So like, say you wanted to tell a story about a basketball player, but you don't have footage of him from the 70s. you hire an actor for your documentary and now that footage is of him, right? Like a recreation. I think if I could keep practicing with that, which I have been, I think I could get the skills up to do a narrative.
Nah, that's dope. Nah, Thanasis, like I said, I've always been, with family, and I'm proud of you.
Appreciate it.
I think you're gonna go far in this game, and we're still gonna
You'll be right there with me, buddy.
We're still gonna drive each other crazy. I just want to say, thanks for giving me, some of your time, because I know you're out in Vegas and you got to do some shooting.
Yes, sir. We start back up with the show Embedded tomorrow. Check it out. If you're happen to be watching this because of you want to be in documentaries, there's no better show to watch to learn. Embedded, UFC Embedded.
And how can people follow you on Gram or Twitter?
This right here, how do I do that?
Fresh
Focus Sports is that's the brand, Fresh Focus Sports. Follow that for all of our content, and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Fresh Focus Sports. And then me personally is TNAS04, TNAS04.
Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, man. How's that weather in New York?
Cold.